Springtime in the nation's capital is synonymous with one thing: the beautiful cherry blossoms. The timing of peak bloom is nearly impossible to plan and schedule in advance since it changes every year depending on weather factors over the winter months. As March and April approach, the National Park Service initiates an annual peak bloom watch where they monitor the buds around Washington, D.C. and forecast when at least 70% of the cherry blossom trees will fully bloom, updating the forecast constantly during this time. Peak bloom is significantly busier than other times during the cherry blossom season, as photographers descend upon the Capitol in mass numbers, seeking the ideal shots. Still, visiting Washington either before or after peak still provides beautiful scenery, and coinciding with the entire season, the National Cherry Blossom Festival runs every year from late March to mid-April, with parades, activities, music, events, and any number of fun happenings for visitors to enjoy. And we'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek of some of that today as well. It may be past peak cherry blossom bloom, but these things sure are pretty. A gift of friendship from the people of Japan to the American people in 1912, the cherry blossoms can be found all throughout Washington, D.C., although they are perhaps most famous for lining the Tidal Basin, south of the National Mall. Visitors seeking to avoid the crowds can still get their cherry blossom fix in numerous places around the Capitol, but walking around the Tidal Basin provides a stunning backdrop while visiting some classic and newer memorials. And here's Stumpy, his last cherry blossom season before removal. Over the years, visitors have grown quite fond of a particular tree affectionately named Stumpy for its resilience in blooming despite its battered condition. Stumpy became damaged due to continual flooding of the Tidal Basin over the years, and in preparation for the 2026 celebration of 250 years of American independence, a major refurbishment project is now underway to rebuild and restore the seawall around the Tidal Basin to prevent the frequent flooding. With this renovation work, Stumpy and some of his friends needed to be removed. Washington Monument, beautiful cherry blossoms across the Tidal Basin. And we come to what I believe may be the most beautiful of all of the monuments, the Jefferson Memorial. The wonderful Roman columns, the Roman rotunda style. And we come across and we see our third president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, memorialized in bronze, right on the inside. This memorial contains some of his most important quotes, sections from his speeches all across. And he sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man. Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States. Jefferson, like many of the other founding fathers, had plenty of faults and inconsistencies in applying his philosophies and politics of liberty and freedom. Still, Jefferson's words and ideas were vitally important to the development of the American experiment. George Mason, the forgotten founding father, very instrumental within the Revolutionary era. Many of the pieces of the Constitution were orchestrated by George Mason. Another beautiful memorial here by the Tidal Basin area of Washington, D.C. Very close by the Jefferson Memorial. George Mason actually very instrumental, as I said, in framing the Constitution, but ultimately did not sign to ratify the Constitution due to his disagreement over the lack of a Bill of Rights initially, It was only shortly after he died that a Bill of Rights was put together and then ratified. Here we are at the FDR Memorial for Franklin Delano Roosevelt, longest of the presidents of the United States, elected to 4 terms actually, died during the 4th. But this, another beautiful newish memorial here at Washington, D.C. Different vignette scenes throughout his life and his wife Eleanor. Making our way around the Tidal Basin, our final memorial stop is Martin Luther King Jr. In a sightline directly between the Lincoln Memorial on the Mall, Dr. King is overlooking the Tidal Basin and facing Thomas Jefferson, perhaps as a way of symbolizing the inconsistencies of Jefferson's ideas of liberty and freedom. Taking a phrase from his famous "I Have a Dream" speech, the monument depicts King as the Stone of Hope, which is coming out from a mountain of despair. Not far from the Tidal Basin, you'll find the Floral Library, another hidden gem just bursting with color this time of year. The cherry blossoms aren't the only things blooming around the Tidal Basin. Here we have the Floral Library, managed by the National Park Service, right off the Tidal Basin, between the Tidal Basin and the monument to George Washington. Tulips in bloom throughout the seasons. They change these flowers out to other flower groups that are a nice breezy day. Let's go fly a kite to the high. On the grounds of the Washington Monument, during Cherry Blossom Festival, right around the time of the Easter egg roll, there is also the Kite Festival. Large crowds come through, register, and just fly their kites. They do have contests, some Japanese drummer groups, and kite displays as well. The cherry blossoms are a gift from the Japanese, and it demonstrates friendship between the Japanese and American communities. Fun event. Cherry blossom season is a stunningly gorgeous time to visit Washington, D.C. Take the time to soak in the colors, discover the Floral Library, and immerse yourself in the beauty surrounding the Tidal Basin. Whether you're here for the peak bloom or just catching the tail end of the season, the National Cherry Blossom Festival offers so many ways to celebrate. Fly a kite, enjoy live music, create a unique souvenir, or even catch the parade. This is just the first of our travel series covering the nation's capital. In the next video, we'll explore more of the National Mall, including some of its most famous memorials and some hidden gems of memorials that are often overlooked. So if you're planning a trip to DC, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Who's that guy back over there?
George Mason.
George Mason. What do you know about George Mason?
His name's George. His last name's Mason. He's called the Forgotten Founder. There's a statue right there.